What happens when a royal guest mistakes a morning show for his personal platform and pushes one of television's most respected hosts past her breaking point? It only took one comment about her integrity for the entire interview to explode into what would become the most jaw-dropping exit in talk show history. Studio 4A at 30 Rockefeller Plaza was buzzing with the usual morning energy. The Today Show set gleamed under the bright lights, cameras positioned perfectly to capture every moment. Savannah Guthrie sat poised in her chair, notes prepared, ready to welcome her guest for what was supposed to be a straightforward conversation about his upcoming charity initiative. Prince Harry walked onto the set with an air that immediately struck the crew as different. There was something in his posture, something in the way he surveyed the studio, that suggested this wasn't going to be the typical cordial exchange viewers had come to expect. "Prince Harry, welcome to the Today Show," Savannah began with her characteristic warmth, her smile genuine as she gestured for him to take his seat. He settled into the chair across from her, barely acknowledging the greeting. "Yes, thank you for having me," he said, though his tone carried none of the appreciation his words suggested. Savannah dove into her first question, keeping things light. "You're here to talk about your new foundation supporting veterans. Can you tell our viewers what inspired this particular cause?" Harry shifted in his seat, a flash of something unreadable crossing his face. "Well, Savannah, I think what people need to understand is that not everyone gets the platform to make real change. Some of us are born into positions where we actually have the responsibility to do something meaningful, unlike the usual celebrity charity nonsense you typically promote on shows like this." The comment landed like a stone. Savannah's expression remained professional, but there was a flicker in her eyes. The crew behind the cameras exchanged glances. "I see," Savannah replied, her voice steady. "We've actually featured many impactful charities on this program. But let's focus on your work. What specific programs will the foundation be implementing?" Harry leaned back, crossing his arms. "That's exactly the problem with media today. You want to reduce everything to sound bites and simple answers. This is complex work, Savannah. I'm not here to give you 30-second clips for your morning audience while they're eating their cereal." Savannah's smile tightened, but she pressed forward. "Our audience is quite engaged and capable of understanding complex issues. Many of them are veterans themselves or have family members who've served. They'd appreciate hearing the details." "Would they, though?" Harry interrupted, his voice taking on a condescending edge. "Because from what I've seen of American morning television, it's mostly fluff pieces and cooking segments." I agreed to this interview because I was told this would be a serious conversation, not another mindless chat. The tension in the studio became palpable. Savannah straightened in her chair, her professionalism holding firm despite the mounting provocation. "We take all our interviews seriously, Prince Harry. Perhaps we can move forward productively. You mentioned in your press release that personal experience shaped this foundation. Can you elaborate on that?" Harry waved his hand dismissively. "Personal experience. That's what you journalists love, isn't it? The personal angle, the emotional hook. You don't actually care about the substance of the work. You just want me to share some traumatic story so you can boost your ratings." "That's not at all what I'm asking," Savannah countered, her tone remaining measured, but with an underlying firmness. "I'm asking you to explain the connection between your background and your mission, which is something you chose to highlight in your own materials." "My own materials," Harry repeated with a sardonic laugh. "Right, because I write those myself. Look, Savannah, let's be honest here. You brought me on this show because my name draws viewers. You're not interested in the foundation. You're interested in the spectacle of having a prince on your morning program." Savannah's jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly. "We invite guests who are doing meaningful work. Your title is certainly noteworthy, but we've asked you here because you're launching a Veterans Foundation. If you'd prefer not to discuss it, we can certainly end this interview now." "Oh, now there's the real Savannah Guthrie," Harry said, leaning forward with a smirk, threatening to cut the interview short when the guest doesn't perform like a trained SEAL. Is this how you treat everyone? Or am I getting special treatment? I'm not threatening anything, Savannah replied, her voice cool and controlled. I'm simply trying to understand if you actually want to have a conversation about your foundation. Because so far, you've spent more time criticizing this program than discussing the cause you're here to promote. Harry's expression hardened. Maybe that's because I'm tired of being paraded around like some curiosity. Do you know what it's like to have every word you say twisted and analyzed? To have your life dissected for entertainment? I'm a journalist, Prince Harry. I ask questions. That's my job, Savannah said. And right now, I'm trying to give you a platform to share something you supposedly care about, but you seem more interested in being combative. Combative, Harry scoffed. That's rich coming from someone who makes a living putting people on the spot. Tell me, Savannah, how many people have sat in this chair and left, feeling like they've been ambushed? How many careers have you tried to damage with your gotcha questions? The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Savannah's expression shifted, a flash of genuine offense, breaking through her professional mask. I have never ambushed anyone in this chair. I prepare thoroughly for every interview. I treat my guests with respect, and I ask fair questions. What you're describing is not who I am or what this show represents. Fair questions, Harry repeated mockingly. Is that what you call it? Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you have an agenda. You want me to be the troubled prince, don't you? The one who can't adjust to normal life, who needs to prove himself with charity work. I have no agenda except to have an honest conversation, Savannah said, her voice rising slightly for the first time. But you walked onto this set with a chip on your shoulder, and frankly, I'm not sure why you agreed to this interview if you hold such disdain for what we do here. Harry stood up abruptly, the sudden movement causing Savannah to straighten in her chair. You want to know why? Because my publicist insisted. Because apparently, American morning. Television is crucial for fundraising, but I'm done pretending this is anything other than what it is. A circus. Sit down, please, Savannah said firmly. We're in the middle of a live broadcast. I know we're live, Harry shot back, still standing. That's the only reason I'm saying this now. So everyone can see what this really is. You people act like you're doing some public service, asking your probing questions, but you're just vultures picking at bones. You take people's pain and package it for ratings. Savannah stood as well, facing him directly. That is completely unfair and untrue. We have serious journalists on this program who have covered wars, natural disasters, political corruption. We've broken important stories and held powerful people accountable. Just because you're uncomfortable being asked about your own initiative doesn't give you the right to disparage the work we do. Uncomfortable? Harry's voice rose. I'm not uncomfortable, Savannah. I'm disgusted. Disgusted by this charade where you pretend to care about veterans or foundations or any of it. All you care about is the next segment, the next commercial break, the next opportunity to sell soap and cereal to your viewers. That's enough, Savannah said, her voice cutting through his tirade. You're being disrespectful, not just to me, but to this entire crew, to our viewers, and honestly, to the very cause you claim to champion. If you can't conduct yourself with basic courtesy, then perhaps you should leave. Harry's eyes flashed with anger. Oh, now you're kicking me off? The big bad host can't handle a little criticism? This is perfect. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The moment someone doesn't play along with your script, you silence them. No one is silencing you, Savannah replied, her composure remarkable given the circumstances. You've had plenty of time to speak, and you've chosen to use that time to insult me, insult this program, and insult our audience. I asked you reasonable questions about a foundation you're launching, and instead of answering them, you've launched into attacks. That's not criticism. That's just rude. Rude? Harry laughed bitterly. You want to talk about rude? How about the media camped outside my home? How about the invasive questions about my family, my marriage, my mental health? Where was your concern about rudeness then? Savannah's expression softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. I understand you've had difficult experiences with the press, but I am not responsible for every journalist who's ever covered you. I'm responsible for this interview, and I've treated you with nothing but professionalism. You're the one who came in here hostile. Hostile, Harry muttered, shaking his head. Unbelievable. You invite someone on your show, you prepare all your little questions designed to make them look bad, and when they don't cooperate, they're hostile. My questions weren't designed to make you look bad, Savannah insisted. They were designed to give you an opportunity to discuss your foundation. You're the one who made this confrontational. From the moment you sat down, you've been looking for a fight. Harry pointed at her, his finger jabbing the air. Don't you dare psychoanalyze me. You don't know anything about me or what I've been through. You sit here in your comfortable studio with your makeup and your teleprompter, and you think you understand struggle? I never claimed to understand your specific struggles, Savannah countered. But I do know that right now, you're behaving like someone who feels entitled to come onto a television program and berate the host without consequence. And I'm telling you, that's not acceptable. The word entitled seemed to strike a nerve. Harry's face flushed red. Entitled? That's what you think this is? Me being entitled? I'm trying to do something good, trying to help people who actually sacrificed for their country. And you're reducing it to some character flaw? You haven't talked about helping anyone, Savannah pointed out, her voice steady. You've spent this entire interview talking about yourself and your grievances with the media. If you genuinely care about this foundation and the veterans it serves, then sit down and tell us about it. Otherwise, yes, I'm asking you to leave. Harry stared at her for a long moment, the tension crackling between them. The crew remained frozen, cameras still rolling, capturing every second of the unprecedented confrontation. You know what your problem is, Savannah? Harry finally said, his voice low and venomous. You think your polite smile and your professional demeanor make you better than everyone else. But you're just as bad as the tabloids. You dress it up in respectability, but you're still exploiting people's stories for profit. At least the tabloids are honest about what they are. Savannah's eyes hardened. And you know what your problem is? You want all the benefits of being in the public eye, the platform, the influence, the ability to raise millions for your causes, but you don't want any of the responsibilities that come with it. You want to use the media when it suits you and attack it when it doesn't. That's not how this works. How dare you, Harry hissed. You have no idea what it's like to have every aspect of your life scrutinized, to have lies printed about you, to watch your family torn apart by people like you. People like me? Savannah's voice rose again. I'm a journalist doing my job. I asked you fair questions. I gave you every opportunity to talk about something you supposedly care about. You're the one who turned this into a spectacle. You're the one who chose confrontation over conversation. So don't stand there and blame me for your behavior. Harry's hands clenched into fists at his sides. This is incredible. You're actually trying to make yourself the victim here. You ambush me on live television, and now you're playing the wounded party? Ambush you? Savannah's incredulity was evident. You agreed to this interview. Your team confirmed it. You walked onto this set of your own free will. Nobody forced you to be here, and nobody forced you to be hostile. Those were your choices, Harry. Own them. The use of his first name, stripped of title or formality, seemed to catch Harry off guard. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Uncertainty, perhaps, or a crack in the armor of righteous indignation he'd been wearing. But then it hardened again. You think you're so clever, don't you? Turning this around on me. Well, let me tell you something, Savannah. Your viewers deserve better than this. They deserve better than a host who baits her guests and then acts surprised when they react. I didn't bait you, Savannah said, each word measured and deliberate. I asked you about your foundation. That's literally the only reason you're here. Everything that's happened since then has been your doing. You insulted the show. You insulted our audience. You insulted me personally. And now you're trying to justify it by claiming you were provoked. You weren't. Harry took a step toward her, and instantly the crew tensed. You're calling me a liar now? Savannah didn't flinch. I'm calling you someone who's behaving badly and refusing to take responsibility for it. There's a difference. Unbelievable, Harry said again, shaking his head. The arrogance. The sheer arrogance of sitting there and lecturing me about responsibility. You, who've never had to deal with a fraction of what I've been through. This isn't a competition of suffering, Harry, Savannah replied. And even if it were, it wouldn't excuse your behavior right now. You came here ostensibly to promote a cause that helps veterans, and instead, you've spent the entire time making it about your personal grievances. How do you think that looks to the people you're supposed to be helping? That question seemed to land differently. Harry's expression flickered, a moment of something that might have been doubt, but it was quickly buried under renewed anger. Don't you dare use them against me. Don't you dare pretend you care about those veterans. You're just using them as a prop in your argument. I'm pointing out that your behavior undermines your stated mission, Savannah said. Every second you spend attacking me is a second you're not spending talking about the people your foundation is meant to serve. That's a choice you're making. Harry's voice dropped to something almost dangerous in its quiet intensity. You really think you're in control here, don't you? You think you can manipulate this situation, edit it later to make yourself look good? This is live television, Savannah reminded him. There's no editing. Everyone is seeing exactly what's happening, and what they're seeing is me trying to conduct an interview while you throw a tantrum. A tantrum? Harry's voice exploded. You think this is a tantrum? I'm calling out your hypocrisy, your manipulation, your complete lack of integrity, and you're dismissing it as a tantrum? The word integrity seemed to be the breaking point. Savannah's expression transformed, something steely and immovable settling over her features. My integrity is not in question here. I have conducted thousands of interviews over my career. I have sat across from presidents, world leaders, survivors of unimaginable tragedies, and I have always treated them with respect and fairness. You are the only guest who has ever stood in this chair and attacked me personally because I dared to ask you about the very thing you came here to discuss. That's because I'm the only one with the courage to say what everyone else is thinking, Harry shot back. That this whole enterprise is a fraud. That you're not journalists. You're entertainers pretending to be journalists. Get out, Savannah said suddenly, her voice cutting through his words like a blade. The studio went silent. Even the ambient noise seemed to cease as everyone processed what had just happened. Harry blinked, seemingly surprised. What? Get out, Savannah repeated, her voice steady and final. This interview is over. I've given you every chance to have a civil conversation, and you've refused at every turn. You've been insulting. You've been aggressive, and you've accused me of things that are categorically untrue. I'm done. We're done. Please leave the set. Harry stared at her, his mouth slightly open. You can't just kick me off. I absolutely can, Savannah said, and I am. This is my show, and I will not tolerate this kind of disrespect. You need to leave. Now. For a long moment, Harry seemed frozen, as if he couldn't quite believe what was happening. Then, something shifted in his expression, a kind of wild defiance. Fine. Perfect. This is perfect. Everyone watching can see who you really are now. The host, who can't handle the truth, who kicks off guests when they don't bow down to her. The host who maintains standards of decency and won't allow her crew or herself to be verbally abused, Savannah corrected. That's who I am, and I'm comfortable with that. Harry turned toward the camera, addressing it directly. You see this, everyone? This is what happens when you speak truth to power. They silence you. They throw you out. Remember this moment. Security, Savannah called out calmly, and from the edges of the studio, 2 security personnel began to approach. Harry's eyes widened. You're actually having me removed? This is how low you'll sink? You were asked to leave and you refused, Savannah stated simply. That's trespassing at this point. These gentlemen will escort you out. The security guards reached Harry's position, standing at a respectful distance, but making their presence clear. One of them spoke quietly. Sir, we need you to come with us, please. Harry looked, between them, then back at Savannah, his expression a mixture of disbelief and fury. This is unbelievable. You're actually doing this. Yes, Savannah said simply. I am. Harry shook his head, something bitter crossing his face. You're going to regret this, Savannah. Everyone's going to know what kind of person you really are. They're seeing exactly who I am right now, Savannah replied. Someone who will not be bullied or insulted on her own program. Someone who maintains professional standards even when her guests refuse to. I'm comfortable with that image. The security guards gently but firmly began to guide Harry toward the exit. He shrugged off their hands initially, then seemed to realize the futility of resistance. As he walked, he called back over his shoulder. This isn't over, Savannah. Yes, it is, Savannah said quietly but clearly. It very much is. Harry reached the edge of the set, and there was a moment where he paused, seeming to consider turning back, making one more statement, landing one more blow. But the security guards were there, and the moment passed. He disappeared beyond the lights, beyond the cameras, out of the studio. Savannah remained standing, her posture perfect, her expression composed, despite everything that had just transpired. She turned to face the camera directly, and when she spoke, her voice was calm and professional. We're going to take a quick break, she said. When we come back, we'll continue with the rest of our program. The red light on the camera blinked off, and the studio seemed to exhale collectively. The crew remained frozen, processing what they'd just witnessed. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Savannah slowly sat back down in her chair, her hands resting on the armrests. Her producer rushed over, concern written across his face, but before he could speak, Savannah held up one hand. I'm fine, she said quietly. Let's just get through the rest of the show. Savannah, that was, the producer, struggled for words. I've never seen anything like that. Neither have I, Savannah admitted, and for the first time since the confrontation began, a small crack appeared in her composure. Her hands were shaking slightly, and she pressed them flat against her notes to still them. Neither have I. You handled it perfectly, the producer assured her. You gave him every chance. Savannah nodded, not trusting herself to speak for a moment. Then she took a deep breath, straightened her shoulders, and looked up at him. How long until we're back? 2 minutes, he said. Okay, Savannah said, smoothing down her jacket, checking her appearance in the monitor. Okay, let's do this. The makeup artist rushed over to do a quick touch-up, but Savannah waved her away gently. I'm fine, thank you. The studio began to resettle into its rhythm, cameras repositioning, crew members finding their marks. The countdown began. 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 10 seconds. Savannah took one, more deep breath, and when the red light clicked back on, her smile was in place. Her voice was steady, and there was no trace of the confrontation that had just occurred, except in the slight steel that remained in her eyes. Welcome back to the Today Show, she said smoothly. Up next, we have a wonderful cooking segment featuring seasonal recipes, perfect for this time of year. And just like that, the show continued, professional and polished, as if the most dramatic exit in morning television history hadn't just occurred mere minutes before. But everyone who had been watching knew They had seen it all unfold. They had witnessed a host maintaining her dignity in the face of unprecedented hostility. They had watched as someone walked onto a set with grievances and entitlement, and they had seen exactly how that ended. The camera pulled back to a wider shot of the studio. The bright lights, the familiar set, the professional crew all working in harmony. Everything looked normal, looked perfect, looked exactly as it should. But the empty chair across from Savannah told a different story.